You know what? Let's do it.
Pride weekend, Pride Day. It's the Pride Parade here in Toronto over the weekend. But a poll out.
Pride Month, eh? I heard that originally it was a man's mental awareness month, so we got rid of that for Pride Month. That shows something, right?
On Canadians' attitudes towards LGBTQ plus issues has some people saying, this might be a pause for concern. Adam Zivo joins me now. He's written about this for the National Post. And Adam, this is a poll from Ipsos, biggest polling firm in the world. They've tracked these issues for years. What was it in the poll that stood out for you that made you say,
Well, so Ipsos has tracked the attitudes of the public in 26 different countries towards LGBTQ communities and their thoughts on LGBTQ rights. And so they saw that between 2021 and 2023, there was a fairly significant drop in support across two-thirds of these countries. And Canada in particular soured.
Okay, let's see. Yep, definitely dropped down. So it's what is it? More LGBTQ characters on TV and films drop down. I feel like it's all over the place nowadays. What else? Well, openly lesbian, gay, bisexual athletes in sports team. Oh, it's here. Come on, that doesn't really. Okay, it dropped, but not too crazy. Companies and brands actively promoting equality for LGBTQ people. Yep, dropped down. That's correct, because it kind of turned a little bit extreme, and it kind of became discriminatory. It feels like DEI issue to me, but yeah. Let's go. LGBTQ people being open about their sexual orientation or gender identity with everyone. And this one I think is really good that it dropped, because why? Why do we need to know this? Why does everyone needs to know it? Why does everyone needs to know what my sexual orientation is? No one needs to know that. Back in the day, we didn't talk about it. You talk about it with your buddies if you want. But in a workplace, like having it on the application form for a new job, really? That's a little too much, don't you think? So yeah, I definitely agree with this, and it should literally go to 5%, and those 5% just being weird. Because, again, no one needs to know your sexual orientation. You as a person are not based on sexual orientation. That shouldn't be your main characteristic. And that's another thing why I think this TV that it went down is a good thing, and I hope this 34% have a more quality, like backstory behind that character on the TV, rather than being just like, I don't know, hey, my name is John and I'm gay, and that's all you know about John, right? That's wrong. So I hope that 34%, at least the writing is a little bit more something like, hey, my name is John, I used to work as I used to be in the army or truck driver, or I used to work in the grocery store, I went to this school, I have a dog, and I'm gay. Even this would be bad writing, but it would still be better than what we saw in these shows, right? Like, they shouldn't make the person about being LGBTQ. They should make a person with their own backstory and just mention if they're LGBTQ, if we really need to know it. Because so many times we don't really need to know it. Don't just push it on us. And there's like examples of the good games like this Final Fantasy, right? You have a character that's I think, member of LGBTQ. You don't even know this, and once you know this, you're so invested that you don't even care. So that's one of the one of the big issues with movies and TVs for sure for me. Give me 1 second. Just need to connect my mouse. Yeah, so again, I think 34% step in the right way. What do we have here? Last one, right? Open. We don't need to know. Not everyone needs to know. I'm not telling people about my life either. Why should I, right? LGBTQ plus people displaying affection in public. And it went down to 40%. Again, like look at the heterosexuals. Are they displaying affection at public? Like every single one? No. So again, I feel like if you don't need to, don't push it on anyone. Same applies to heterosexuals. Like not everyone's comfortable with this. So yeah, I don't really think these numbers are something bad. And again, let's talk one more time about the companies and brands actively promoting equality for LGBTQ plus people. So the issue was that I feel like most of the people who care about, or not care, who promote this agenda are kind of extremists. Like if you want to argue with them or just give your own opinion, automatically you're homophobic, and they usually add one or two other words, like even if it doesn't make any sense, right? So let's say you're homophobic, racist, and all of that, even if you're not even talking about different race. It's just ridiculous. It always comes in two or three. So I'm not surprised that companies are dropping down, because again, why do you need to promote it? Why? You just put it in, like, I never saw a commercial where they're promoting heterosexuals, right? They promote people. Like a car commercial, you don't have a heterosexual couple banging on the back seat, right? I never seen the commercial like this, so why do we need to put the sexual orientation in the advertisements? Doesn't make sense. So yeah.
On the LGBTQ community. So across a variety of indicators, support for LGBTQ rights.
And one more thing that's important to realize. This is about visibility, support for LGBTQ plus visibility, right? It's not that it dropped and people hate them right now. And that's what, unfortunately, these people who are a little bit extreme, who are pushing this agenda, these people want you to think that if you don't openly support it, you pretty much hate them, right? Which is not true. Most of the people just don't care. Like I said, I work with so many people. I don't know who's gay or lesbian, who's heterosexual. You know why? Because I don't care. It's not important for my life. It's not important for my job. I'm not going to look at them differently than I do, because I already have experiences with them. So why do I need to know it?
Rights and visibility dropped by about 10 to 15%. So for example, far fewer people now want to see LGBTQ characters on screens, whether that be in televisions or films. Far fewer people want to see openly gay athletes. Fewer people now support.
Okay, so about the films and TVs, there should definitely be a disclaimer. It should definitely be 18 plus, because I remember my wife. She was watching some movie on the Netflix, and there was out of nowhere, there was a gay sexual scene. She was mortified. Wasn't 18 plus, didn't have a warning, didn't even have a LGBTQ tag. And now thinking about my kids accidentally putting this movie on, it's ridiculous. Like, we need to fix this. Like, if you have a sex scene, it should be 18 plus. And honestly, some other things as well. Maybe we'll get to that, but...
Supports anti-discrimination laws that protect LGBTQ people from having unequal access to housing and employment. Fewer people are now more comfortable.
Unequal access to housing and employment. Well, guess why? Because you're telling everyone. Like, what does it have to do with you being able to afford a house or being able to get a job? Like, again, back in the day, if you talk about sex at work, you would go to HR. And somehow now, especially thanks to this movement, it's okay. Well, it's okay if you're part of LGBTQ. If you're heterosexual and you're gonna talk about sex at work, still the same thing. You're gonna go talk to HR, right? But like, don't you think maybe that's an issue? Obviously, discrimination is completely different, and I agree that if you're discriminated based on being a member of LGBTQ, that's illegal. That's not okay. But maybe think about why you actually got discriminated. If you're applying for rent, mortgage, whatever, do they really need to know your sexual orientation? If you're applying for the job, same thing. Do they really need to know that about you, especially when you're in the hiring process? Like, is it something that makes you a better candidate for the job? Like maybe go old school and just highlight the things that are actually important for the job. That being said, again, if you feel like you have to say it and you're discriminated after that, that's not okay. It's illegal and definitely should have some consequences for the possible employer, right?
Comfortable with seeing queer people hold hands. The numbers are really concerning. For such a drop to occur in just 2 years, suggests that the acceptance that has been built over the course of several decades may quickly disappear. And I find that
Here we go.
really frustrating because
And that's what I'm talking about. Once you see the drop, automatically they're talking about acceptance. No, people just don't care about it anymore. It like we don't. Why do you need? Why does it mean that if you don't show the support of it, it automatically means that you don't accept it? It's not black and white. It doesn't mean that if you don't openly support it, you hate it. Literally, I don't care. As long as it's not gonna affect my kids, I don't care. Do whatever you want. And that's what I mean. Like, affect my kids means some stuff should stay behind closed doors. Like, I don't talk about some stuff. I follow the same rules. Like, no one else than me and my wife needs to know what's going in our bedroom, right? So why doesn't everyone follow these rules? And it's ridiculous that this guy again thinks like, oh, there's some danger because now people are actually not accepting it. I would say that it's been around for 2-3 years. It's not cool anymore. People accept it, or they just don't care about it. They just don't show openly support, because that's pretty much what you wanted to accomplish, no? You wanted to be in the position where it's kind of normal. So when you come to this position, you shouldn't need support anymore, right?
I blame many of the activists in my community as a gay man for allowing this to happen.
In what way? Because
in what way?
When I look at the poll, I see that a lot of the fights around issues related to transgender issues, in particularly with children and schools or women's sports, appears to be driving a lot of this. And I think there's real concerns about that issue. I had Julia Malata on to talk about that, and she says, yeah, there are ways to talk about this and ways to deal with it that aren't so confrontational. Do you feel like that's part of what's pushing this? Is that?
So I went to the library with my sons, right? And I saw this book in the child section. Well, pretty much kind of a toddler section about being a non-binary kid. So the child picture book with just a little bit of text, literally like book for the 1-year-old kids. Really? Why do we need this? Well, the kid doesn't even know what's a guy and girl, and you're already gonna push some non-binary stuff on them, and you're surprised that people are outraged about it or kind of against it.
There are demands, and then anybody that says, well, hold on a minute, I'm not sure about 6'2", 250-pound biological males who are transitioning playing against 5'2" women
Yeah.
in rugby is a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
And then anyone that says that is denounced in the
Here we
most
go.
horrific terms.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
part of what
That's the
is
thing.
driving this drop? Do you think a very uneven debate about a very serious issue?
I think it's two things. So first of all, it's the kind of things that activists are pushing for, and second of all, it is the tone with which they are pushing for these things. And what I would argue is that historically speaking, LGBTQ activists were most successful when they focused on forms of activism which were more like when they acted more like publicists and diplomats rather than warriors. So in the 1980s,
Yep.
1990s, and 2000s, LGBTQ activists mostly emphasized what they had in common with the rest of society. They said, for example, that one of your relatives or friends could secretly be gay, just like, and so we're just like people who you know. There's nothing special about us.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Even if you look, you don't have to look at the LGBTQ, but pretty much everything. Once you become this warrior, and you're just pretty much minority of the population, but you become crazy loud, calling people name. What do you think the rest of the population is gonna think, and how are they going to behave? Like, if you're polite, if you're just trying to be a normal member of society with just this specific characteristic, no one's gonna say anything bad about you, no one's gonna be against you. People will even support you. But once you become this loud, obnoxious, with kind of crazy demand, obviously it's not gonna do any good. And like I said, it's not just LGBTQ community. I'm gonna share something personal with you guys. I'm actually vegan. And now I made about, 100, 120 videos. Did I ever mention it? Did I ever push it on you? No. Why would I? It's my belief, it's something I'm doing, and I I can kind of say the same thing he does. Like, my vegan community, I don't agree with it because some of them are pushing too hard. I can share a little bit more. I can tell you personal story. So my father-in-law was eating less meat, trying to eat less meat while the whole family is vegan, right? And we went to some vegan fest. He was open to it. He likes vegan food, but he's still not giving up the meat completely, which to me is great that he's trying. He's open to it, and it's not perfect, but comparing to eating meat every day or multiple times every day, like it's great. I can't complain about everything. I'm proud of it. But then we went to this vegan fest and we spoke to one of our friends who's like vegan activist. Do you think he had the same opinion? No, he just trashed my father-in-law. It was horrible. And since then I never hanged out with him anymore because it's like, again, it's like either it's black or white. Like, there's nothing in the middle. It doesn't matter if you're trying to lesser the consumption, in this case, of meat. You're still not good enough until you're doing that 100%, which I don't agree. It's as long as you're trying. So yeah, point of my story, like, if you're warrior, loud, obnoxious, it's not gonna do you any good, especially if you're minority, right? So definitely more calculative approach, quiet, trying to be member of the society with just this little characteristic, which again, I understand it might be a big part of your life, but understand that for no one else it doesn't really matter, and you don't want it to be your main characteristic because you worked your whole life to be who you are. And is it really just this one thing, who you are? No.
They rebranded gay marriage as marriage equality to emphasize that the fact that there aren't really any serious differences between being homosexual and heterosexual. When gay men were dying en masse and being abandoned by their families in hospital rooms during the AIDS crisis. activists put together a large quilt with every square of that quilt representing a lost life and exhibited that across the country. And that was a powerful way to build empathy without being confrontational per se. I mean, it was confrontational to a certain degree, but fundamentally it was about building dialogue and showing mutual respect. Then in 2015, same-sex marriage was legalized all across the United States. And many of the
It
more
had been legal in Canada for more than a decade at that point, though.
It had been, but we do have to keep in mind that the U.S. is I guess it is the hub of global queer activism, right? So what happens in the U.S. very much influences what happens in Canada.
Here we kind of go with what I don't agree. It's never enough until it's 100%, right?
So the shift of activism, the tone of activism shifted in the US because the more conventional members of the queer community became depoliticized because they said, well, we had won the most important symbol of our legitimacy, our right to marry. So what more do we really have to do? It seems like we won the battle. So the professional class stopped engaging in activism. Uh, Middle class, white collar workers, gay men were like, okay, well, we'll just back out of this. And so the people who were left were more
No, I agree. Like, what more you want? I'm sorry, but that should be a biggest, huge win and end of whatever other agenda you have. Like, now you have the same rights, and again, you have right not to mention you're gay at work, and it's not only right. Like, it doesn't belong to the workplace. Once you start bringing it to the workplace, that's when the discrimination starts, right? Which it's illegal for sure. There's a freedom of speech for sure, but it's something we don't talk about at work because you, as a heterosexual man, if I talk about sex at work, I'll get into trouble. I'll have to talk to the HR, right? And yet, the members of LGBTQ community are literally how is that word? I don't want to say pushed to talk about it, but they're literally announcing that they're members of LGBTQ. Why? No one needs to know it. Does it improve your work performance? It doesn't. So, like, it should end up with having the same rights. If you're discriminated, file the legal action. And here we go. Like, why do you need to promote it as something better, something cool, like billboards, whole month for that? Why?
militants and marginalized, and they were infuriated by the fact that they were, in some sense, abandoned. And so they took over LGBTQ institutions. They quickly dominated the discourse, and they shifted the tone of activism to a much more militant and aggressive.
Nah. So the thing about the internet is usually the minority is the loudest because I don't want to. Okay, let's not talk about LGBTQ, but even like political issues and everything. And it's gonna sound funny because I'm just reacting to the pretty much political video, right? But like only the minority of people is loud. But they make it look like that this is the majority of people have this opinion. No. The rest of the people just don't react. They don't talk about it. It's not worth their time, or they don't even know about this video or anything, right? It's always just few people who are loud on the internet, and it makes it look like a huge army. And that's pretty much what helped President Trump as well, right? Because people saw this few loud people and they were like, no, we don't want this, and voted for Trump, right? Which was a great decision, but yeah.
Tone. So the rhetoric of love is love was replaced with the rhetoric of, F you, I'm queer. And
which is not very welcoming.
no, and here's the
Hi,
thing:
how are you? F you, I'm queer. Well, that's going to hit someone.
Well, like so we have.
But why do you even need to know why do we even need to have a quote or something like that, slogan like love is love? Unless you're trying to make it popular, unless you're selling something, unless you have billboards, you don't need that. And for this social issue, you don't really need that.
So people often conceptualize social progress as being this irreversible march forward. And in the mid 2010s, social progressives they'd had a long string of victories. So I think many of them just assumed that they were on the cusp of permanently vanquishing their opponents, and therefore there was no need to persuade people. In fact, the people who didn't believe in LGBTQ rights should feel grateful for the opportunity to be educated, rather than face the dustbin of history. And so at the same time, you had this rise of woke culture where
Yeah, that's another thing. Like, again, um, I don't want to put the whole LGBTQ in one basket, because you have some activists or supporters that are not even a member of the LGBTQ, and they're loud. So all of this video is about these activists, these loud people. They definitely make it worse for the whole community. Now I freaking forgot what I wanted to say. Okay, let's go one more time here.
opportunity to be educated.
Oh yeah, that they deal with everyone like they're so patronizing. It's ridiculous. They try to make you feel like you're stupid because you don't know much about their agenda. Like they're trying, exactly like he said it, educate you. And that's another thing that I experience with vegans as well, right? Like they think everyone, or they make it look like everyone who's not eating vegan is stupid, and it's their life goal to educate you, which I disagree with. Like people are, the biggest issue is that they're trying to educate people who are not interested in it. And I'm 100% sure that this is going to be the same issue. Like, let people ask you questions. Don't educate them if they're not interested, unless they come to you first. Like, we don't need that. We have our own issues, right?
Rather than face the dustbin of history. And so at the same time, you had this rise of woke culture where persuasion was replaced with sanctimony. People said, it's not my job to educate you. They talked about the emotional labor of explaining their rights to other people. And I always found that perplexing. Why would you set up barriers against disseminating ideas which secure your rights? So all of these things come together, and what was, at first a very diplomatic and image conscious movement is replaced by a militant movement that is very alienating.
I think militant is the right word.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's very difficult to have a fair minded debate with many of the activists. You can't engage with them.
You really can't. And so we started to see, actually, as far back as 2016, a decline in support for LGBTQ rights. So GLAAD, which is a large LGBTQ organization based in the States, has been polling Americans on LGBTQ issues since 2014. And so from 2014 to 2016, you see an increase in support for rights. And then afterwards, support stagnates and starts to decrease amongst youth, especially amongst young men. And the Ipsos poll that came out recently verifies that trend.
Okay, I have an easy answer to that. 2016 is when President Trump became president, right? So up until then, and then for the period from I think 21 to 25, when you didn't agree or you'd said that you don't care, again, you are marked or classified straight away as homophobe, transphobe, racist, altogether, like no matter what you disagree with. And it's not about disagreeing. You might even have a slightly different opinion. But as long as you have different opinion, you're bad. So I think that's why these polls were like highly for support of this, because people were actually afraid. You can literally lose the job if you say something wrong, which is ridiculous.
Because it shows that Gen Z men are much less supportive of queer
No,
rights than millennial men.
disagree
So
with
you're
that.
seeing a backsliding here amongst youth.
Again, it's not about being less supportive. It's just they don't care. Possibly that they even grew up with this, seeing it around. So why are they supposed to even think about it as something not normal? And isn't that what you wanted the whole time? To be considered as normal members of society, in this case normal members of society, while everyone knows about your orientation for some reason when no one else needs to know. But yeah, that's what you were striving to, right? And now you're mad that no one considers you special and showing you some special support. I really don't agree with this.
So based on that timing, I mean, correlation obviously is not the same as causation, but it seems to be the most plausible hypothesis that this militant form of activism began to alienate people, especially young people who were most likely to directly engage with these activists.
For sure. It did alienate a lot of people.
My community is dealing with the consequences of mismanagement.
What would be your advice to your colleagues and compatriots in your own community then?
Well, I would say that we have to start listening to people and start having actual conversations with people who we may disagree with. And we have to recognize that the activists who claim to represent all of us may not be the most effective representatives, and that maybe we should find new activists. There are many policies now that LGBT.
The thing is, do you really want it to be activist? Because just activism in its sense, it's always going to be kind of militant. I don't know, I have that word connected to something kind of negative. Like they're always going to push on me something that I don't care about, don't really think about. Like I always feel like they're going to villainize me one way or another. So I don't know, maybe not finding new activists, but just better representatives, I guess, would be better word. Better role models. Maybe that's the correct word.
LGBTQ activists that are advocating for that I think are quite contentious. For example, pediatric gender care, trans inclusion in sports and female-only spaces. And I think that it's important to talk about how trans rights in these cases.
No. Okay, here we go again. Disagree about this completely. If you want some special treatment like this, because again, I'm sorry, I'm gonna make some people mad, but biologically you're either male or female. How you feel, that's your own thing, that's your own feeling. No one can see it, no one can know if it's real or no other than you, right? So if you really are a man who feels like a woman, you shouldn't go to the women changing rooms, because then you're creating some possibly negative experience for everyone in the changing room, right? Because not everyone agrees with it. Maybe people support you, but they don't really want to be naked in front of you or something like that. So what these activists or representatives should push for is having changing rooms just for their own, just one room, right? It's still just minority of population, like crazy minority. So it wouldn't be an issue to have one changing room with bathroom, toilet access, right? The same with the leagues. Well, have your own league. I don't know how more inclusive can you be. Like have your own league when you're gonna compete with the people with the similar advantages and disadvantages. Like that's what you should push for. Like I'm sorry, like I'm a guy, I can't go to the women's leagues. Even if I would feel as a woman, I have advantage biologically. Like, I don't know. It's not that hard. Like, I agree with the leagues for transgender athletes. I agree with the special changing rooms for transgender people. And I think that's what you should push for, and not trying to affect the other members of the population because of how you feel.
Cases conflicts with other forms of rights, whether it be women's rights or even gay
Yeah,
rights.
yeah,
Because,
okay.
I mean, let's
I
face
got
it,
it wrong.
many
Sorry.
youth who self-identify as trans are just gay and dealing with gender dysphoria, and sometimes we are transing away the gay. And it's okay for us to have conversations about this and to say that this is a difficult conversation and both sides have legitimate concerns here.
Another thing is don't touch the youth. Don't touch the youth. Like, until you go through the puberty, you don't really know who you are. You don't know if you're a guy or a girl. Like, you're not a man until you finish the puberty. So giving the puberty blockers to the kids, like, they don't know. How can they make informed decision when they don't even know what they're giving up? Like, once you're 18 or 21 in the US, do whatever you want, but before that, don't touch the youth.
And we can respect the humanity of both sides.
Did you watch Alberta Premier Danielle Smith's full video when she came out with her new policy related to trans rights a little while ago?
Yeah, I thought it was excellent.
It was caring and compassionate to all sides in the issue, understanding of all sides in the issue, but she was vilified because it seems to be a zero-sum game. It is all or nothing. And you know, she had some very
that's the issue, remember?
heartfelt
Always
moments in that,
100%.
and it was completely dismissed. I think it's also taken on a left-right polarization that it doesn't have to. I think that's part of the problem here.
Which we also have, we have to admit that social conservatives are part of that polarization as well. When you say that people are evil, when social conservatives say that, that doesn't help, right? And when I say that LGBTQ activists have in a sense fueled this backlash, that doesn't mean that hardcore social conservatives are blameless here. They have also contributed to this problem. I view them as a kind of yin and yang. They feed into each other and find meaning in one another. And both of them collaboratively make this debate so toxic.
What all I would say about that is one side of that yin and yang gets full support and recognition from the mainstream media in our country, and the other one is completely vilified. And by the way, by endorsing the activists, our media
Good point.
vilifies everybody in the middle trying to sort this out. Like the whole issue.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's not black and white. Not everyone cares or hates. There are people who are unaffected by it in their life, and they should be. Like, unless you want to care, or unless you're, I'm sorry, stupid enough to hate, it shouldn't affect you at all. Like, what are we talking about? It should be okay to be in the middle, but somehow during, I don't know, President Biden's era, liberals over here in Canada as well, somehow if you're in the middle, it's the same, like you would be against it. You're vilified, you're the bad person and everything. And it's like, I literally don't care what you do behind your closed doors. And if you're trying to push it on me, what do you think my reaction's gonna be? Like, I don't care unless you push it on me or on my kids, and I don't think you should push it on me. Again, I don't care.
Of should parents be informed about their child wanting to change their gender at school, or should teachers keep that secret? Well, I think most parents, in polling shows, most parents end up saying, well, I'd like to know. I don't want the school keeping secrets.
No, for sure, because you're responsible for your kid, right? You should know what's going on in school. You should be first one to be informed what's going on with your kid. Because if the school keeps it a secret from you, who knows what's going to happen? Look, my friend, my best friend from the childhood, when I was in the high school, he was on the different high school, we didn't talk for a while, committed suicide because of the girl. Now imagine the school would know something was going on with him, but didn't tell it to the parents. And they could have prevented. I'm not saying that's what happened, but I'm saying that if you keep some information away from the parents, that's definitely what's going to happen. Like, we as a parents, we learn as well, right? We evolve as well. No one was born with all of the knowledge how to be the best parent, right? But you need to have information about your kid. And it doesn't matter LGBTQ or anything else. If something's going on with your kid, you need to know this, because it can spiral out and it can have huge consequences. So this, keeping a secret something from the parents, is ridiculous, and it should be crime. It should be criminal offense. Because yes, you are responsible for your kids, and not only legally responsible, but you want the best for your kids. And how should you how can you provide the best if you don't have all of the information?
From home, and yet, if you look at most of the media coverage, it acts as if this is vile and on the margins, when in fact it's the vast majority, including many people I know in the LGBTQ community who would say, yeah, if my kid's doing something at school, I want to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, like I would like to have a family,
And that's what I said, that always the minority is loudest, right? Because not everyone shares their opinion on the internet. And honestly, most of the smart people, normal people don't. And again, sounds funny because I'm reacting to the video, but yeah, that's it.
if my kid had gender dysphoria and wanted to transition at school, I would want to be informed of that. Because I would want to know, are they authentically trans, or is this a way, or are they using, this as a way to cope with trauma? And that would be something that would matter a lot to me, and I would imagine it would matter to many people,
Yeah.
regardless of their. But there are many people who are empathetic towards the trans community and want trans people to have dignity and to thrive,
Yeah.
but at the same time are concerned about some of these more extreme policies. And they want to find a way to talk about this and find equitable compromises. But when they try to raise these concerns, they are told by many journalists and many queer activists that they are hateful and that they are basically Nazis who are.
The Prime Minister described parents who want to know as far right and hate filled.
Yeah. And so look, if you're a moderate
Ridiculous.
parent who is being told that you want to genocide trans people because you have concerns about some of these policies, then that will push you towards disliking the trans community, because no one enjoys
Yeah.
being smeared this way, right?
Well, look what happened in the US, right? They vilified the heterosexual males. And look, President Trump won. Which again, I think that was the best outcome they could have hoped for. But definitely Democratic Party vilifying the heterosexual Caucasian males didn't help them get the votes. Remember, they even had to start with White Man for Harris group. What the hell is that? Who cares if you're white or no? Honestly, who even cares if you're man or no? Like, that's the biggest issue, this identity politics. Even in this case, like, again, being LGBTQ member is not your identity. You are who you are. You are your life experiences and everything. I don't care if you're heterosexual, gay, or whatever. I don't need to know. I shouldn't know, to be honest, because it's not gonna give you any special treatment from me. Like, what do you expect you're gonna get from me if you tell me that you're this and this? Not important for me.
And they might think to themselves, well, if this is being said about me, then maybe every single person who is being portrayed as a transphobe is actually quite reasonable. And then that may open them up
Yep.
to listening to people who genuinely are actually transphobes. And so like on the whole, I just see this, the way that queer activists are dealing with this, they're shooting themselves in the foot. They should be talking with people who have concerns and listening to them and and validating the fact that they are not evil, and coming up with some sort of mutual understanding rather than trying to shut down conversations by saying that everyone else is a bigot and everyone else is far right.
Fair-minded conversations with our friends, neighbors, and allies. It sounds like a better way to go about things. Adam, thanks so much for the time.
Thanks for having me.
Let us know what you think. Drop a comment down below.
Okay, I don't know what I feel about how I feel about this this interview. Like, wasn't bad. I just again, I feel like he's putting too much value into being member of this specific identity group. Like, it shouldn't be about it. It should literally be about we're all humans. Some things we're doing in public, some things should remain private, right? And that's pretty much all. Like, he has a definitely he's not the activist that promotes the hate towards LGBTQ community, but I did disagree with some points. And again, I think we all are humans. No one should get any special treatment only because he's a member of some identity group. Some things should stay behind closed doors. Some things have no place in the workplace, or like we heard something about being discriminated regarding housing. I wonder how. Like, you do you really need to announce someone you're gay? And if, let's say, if they canceled your contract, like rental, because you're gay, like what did you do that they found out? Like, did you have some loud parties or anything like that? But again, definitely, if you're discriminated, illegal, you should report it and someone should handle it. And I think that's pretty much the only thing we should even talk about. Like, if someone discriminates LGBTQ community member, it should be a huge court case, so you can make that public, and that should be pretty much the only agenda you need, to be honest. Like, you got your rights, what more you want to push? And again, if you're pushing something on other members of the community, not a best way to go about it, right?